Hello, I am Athena Demos. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Big Rock Creative. I'm assuming everyone knows who Big Rock Creative is. Yes? Thank you. You're welcome for the party. So we came into existence to make Virtual Burning Man, and now we make a lot of projects for global brands. But my history, if you haven't figured it out from last night's party, is in doing large-scale event production. I also have worked in television film, but my forte is bringing people together in a physical space, and now in a virtual space. So this is BRCVR. This is actually the Playa from 2022. What we have in our booth right now is our newest iteration, which is a full 2-scale model of all of Burning Man that's absolutely explorable, and we're very excited to present to all of you Burnersphere. But in all of this, it is really, the talk is about enhancing human connection in the physical world with XR. And we have an epidemic of loneliness. People are pulling themselves away from each other. They're afraid of physical connection. They don't have the skills for it. They haven't been taught it. They haven't practiced it. And so being able to use virtual spaces for that practice, it's safe because you're safe in your home, but you're still allowing to practice how to be in a crowd like that. And this is actually Burning Man. 80,000 people. How many people have been to Burning Man? Awesome. Wow. Okay. That's a huge ratio. That's because we're in LA. How many people went to the virtual burn when we did it in 2020 and 2021? Yeah? Awesome. Yay. Fantastic. So where I am in my time. That timer didn't start. 1:57. Okay. So Burning Man is built on 10 principles, and we still use those principles in the virtual space as well as we do in the physical space. Having a way for community to come together around a common ethos. So whether it's this ethos of the 10 principles, sometimes it's a religious ethos, but it gives everybody a way to understand how they're meeting. My brain is really tired, if you haven't told. But thank you very much.
You threw an awesome party.
I threw an awesome party last night, and we had to, yes, and we had to strike the entire party last night. So it was a late night. So the radical inclusion, gifting, decommodification, radical self-reliance, radical self-expression, communal effort, civic responsibility, leaving no trace, participation, and immediacy, being in the be here now in this immediate moment. I do a really long talk over these, so I'm not going to go into it in 5 minutes. Am I on time?
You're good. You're good.
Okay. So now we build a lot of stuff for a lot of experiences for other global brands. For Microsoft, we worked on their New York office building at 300 Lafayette, a digital twin where their engineers could come together. Even in the building of these corporate experiences, we still apply the principles of Burning Man. We look at how can it be a space of communal effort. How is everybody participating in it? How are people feeling radically included? And if they're not, what can we do to make them feel more radically included? And then the immediacy, the be here now, is their sense of presence. So Pride Has No Borders, the History of Pride World Museum, all of those, we worked in collaboration with Microsoft to create on the AltSpace platform, and we will in the future, and it's coming to Mesh. We're very excited about that project in the future. But so I'm working with a large corporation, but still saying this is how we bring community together. And then our newest client, T-Mobile for Business, has been a wonderful group of people to work with. And again, we're doing the same thing, but now we're doing it in their booth. How can we draw people in? How can we enhance the physical connection with XR? And we did work with the European Cricket Network, bringing all the fans together globally so that they can communicate with each other over their favorite teams with a Hall of Fame and a trophy room. And then working with the United Nations and the Youth Council, creating a world where all of their delegates, there's 362 delegates from all over the world coming together to solve world problems. And flying them all over the world is super expensive and difficult, and they have now found that virtual reality is the best way for them to meet. So we asked them what they wanted to build, and they came up with this great idea that they wanted a nightclub on an asteroid flying through space. So we built it for them. And we've kind of gotten recognized for our work, which is great. There's one missing on this slide because I built it before we won the Telly. We just won the gold Telly for the T-Mobile 5G Trailblazing Adventure. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're very excited about that. And that's my introduction.
Cool. Awesome. I'm going to go here. Hi, everyone. I'm Scarlett. Super exciting to share the stage with Athena, an artist and leader that I respect so much, to geek out about emotional connection. So I'm a creative director and producer who is really passionate about hybridizing theater with immersive technology. My background is as a theater director, from classics to new plays to multimedia plays. Led me to unconventional spaces and co-authoring with communities. And that led me to the metaverse and digital spaces of all kinds. As I thought about what are the elements that we bring from physical reality into the metaverse, into digital experiences, I go back to my experiences in protests or large-scale gatherings or rituals, collective effervescence, this idea that us all coming together to form a kind of like liveness or a kind of electricity. Or Korean shamanism, which is one of my practice that I grew up with that really informs my artistic practice, this idea of liminal space, going from separation into transition into incorporation and coming out anew. Recently, I co-founded Worlds in Play, which is a festival at the intersection of game and theater, exploring agency. And I also produced the LAX Festival, which is celebrating the multidisciplinary Los Angeles community. I spent the past few years leading the transmedia department at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, which is one of the largest theater festivals in North America, really redefining what liveness means in the digital space, and really redefining what is a festival experience by creating a playful digital twin of the iconic Elizabethan theater. Through that work, we served 1,100 jobs for the creative economy and presented all kinds of projects across browser, in-person, VR, et cetera. And now, recently, I've joined the team at Culture House Immersive, an entertainment studio who is dedicated to creating amazing location-based and across all of the XR omniverse. We're an immersive entertainment studio with distribution partnership built in from the get-go, and we distribute and create and develop narrative work across all kinds of spaces, including traditional media, concerts, theme parks, roller rinks, you name it. These are some projects by our Avengers team, what they have done in the past, including Sleep No More, Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, and many other IP and experiences you might recognize as being transformative of what we think of as location-based entertainment. So some of our driving questions is, how can we use technology as a verb? Technology and dramaturgy, how can it go hand in hand? How do we humanize technology? How do we lower barrier of entry into technology? By embedding technology into location-based experiences, we're really excited to have technology continue to serve as a connective tissue beyond just the experience. Here are some of our values and some of why our business model is disruptive. We really center sustainable artist revenue by starting with live experiences and imagining a new way of thinking about a flywheel of a traditional story world. We're also meeting the need of immersive technology spaces, disused real estate, and all kinds of spaces. I love talking about roller rinks because we all have a relationship of some kind to them, and we're finding exciting ways to use it. Also, we're thinking entrepreneurially, because I'm always excited about championing artists as entrepreneurs and as architects of our future, by thinking beyond butts and seats model of revenue. So right now, we are building an incubator, packaging 10 to 15 projects, vetting for best content and impact and business. We're taking some of those projects into our slate and partnering with performing arts centers as prototype partners across the country. And from there, we have tested projects that are ready for scale that go well beyond the walls of traditional performing arts centers. And we're really excited that these venues are pre-invested in building a pipeline for work, and these mutually beneficial relationships will allow us to develop work with a built-in distribution network. So here are some of our current incubator projects, ranging from a multiverse of Sherlock Holmes to Afrofuturist planetarium experiences to narrative XR dinner party series, and of course, immersive experiences activating disused roller rinks across the country. So Athena, the first thing we wanted to talk about was what are some strategies that we draw from live theater and in-person gatherings to activate liveness, activate togetherness, activate community in the metaverse?
By the way, that was an amazing introduction, and I love the work that you're working on. And
love your work.
Yeah.
Just mutual fangirling.
I'm gonna grab this sheet of paper off the ground so I'm not looking down. My strategy has always been to look for the human side of things. A lot of times we get in a technology project and we look, how are we going to code this, or how are we going to make the functionality happen? And what I like to look at is the participant's experience. Like sometimes we look at UX, which is user experience, and my strategy is always about PX, the participant's experience, and sort of changing that mindset a little bit. It's still the same. There's still the people that are coming on and utilizing the platform, but to think of it as how they're participating with it creates interactivity. So whether it's an event that I'm producing in downtown LA, where all these people are going to come in, and are they just going to watch a band, or are they going to have a photo booth to go to and some activities to play with and interact, whatever it is, some art to make, a boutique to try on clothing, stuff like that. So in the virtual space, I want to do the same thing. And that's my strategy. It's like the more that they can interact with something, the more they're engaged with it, with other people, it becomes a shared experience.
Yeah, totally. I resonate with that. In Culture House Immersive, we use this term immersive involvement, and coined by our founder, who's sitting right there, Michael Tyler-Garber. And really, like this idea of agency and involvement and participation, and how is the audience or participant central to the experience? Not like a voyeur or not a someone who's outside of the thing, but actually how are we casting them as a central protagonist and a co-author and a co-conspirator? So I also think a lot about liveness and all these different definitions and preconceived notions we have about liveness. I guess like coming up in the theater, like people always had strong feelings about live theater means XYZ and you have to sit in the same room. I'm like, there's many different ways to define liveness, and I find that really exciting. And I think both of our work, I feel like we've had different proposal of, is liveness about synchronicity? Is it about togetherness? Is it about that shared moment of electricity? Is it actually about surprise and failure and mistakes? So I think whenever I kind of traipse across physical and digital spaces, I'm always like, how are we creating live experiences, and how can we expand that definition of liveness?
At Burning Man, we say no spectators.
Yeah.
There's no spectators. Everyone's a participant. Even if you're sitting and watching a symphony play at a beautiful piece of art and you feel like you're a spectator, you're a participant, because your energy at being there and watching that performance is what gives the performer the energy to give you that. It's we often say this with DJs. They say read the room. Well, what they're actually doing is reading the energy of the room. They're feeding off of it. There's a give and a take. There are no spectators. That's why I like to get rid of the whole user experience. Yeah. I think we need to start calling it PX, but then Portland would get upset. Well, we should call it PX instead of UX, because it's all participatory. And when we talk about metaverse and immersive worlds, we really are talking about participatory experiences.
Yeah, and just to get granular, because I love what you said about UX, PX, and this. I love borrowing process terms from different spaces and seeing what happens if you bring it into a different place. Like at Oregon Shakespeare Festival, I was like, what about play testing? Everyone was like, what is that? What does play testing mean in a theater context? But that actually opened up minds and possibilities in a new way, because we're like, well, it's rehearsal. But I'm like, what if we borrow the idea of play testing? And then we were like, what if we borrow the idea of creating a vertical slice, a game design term, right? And then use that as a way to think about this hybrid experience that we're making. And same thing, vice versa, of how do we draw from things like viewpoints for theater nerds out there. Like, how do we take that and actually use that as a tool for improvisational creation in the metaverse? So I love being promiscuous of how we use terms across spaces.
I like that.
Yeah. Well, so we started talking about this already, but how are the digital and metaverse communities that we have created, how are they influencing or creating real world impact back in real life?
Oh, that's a really good question. From what I've seen with BRCVR is that people that would normally not have been able to meet each other because there's barriers of entry, whether it could be country lines, could be language barrier, could be whatever it is. Normally it's a location-based barrier. They meet each other and they're like minds and they want to collaborate on something. So having this digital space that is accessible and easy for the most part, you're not getting on a plane, you're not flying somewhere, you're not, for Burning Man, that is so not accessible to most people. That's a heavy lift for people who have gone to Burning Man, especially if you go year after year after year. It is a heavy lift, and we get it, and so we help people get there. Burner Sphere is not a heavy lift. You need a Quest headset, and then you can run around and you can meet people. And so what's happening is these people are meeting each other and wanting to collaborate on art projects. And the journey of the creation of that project, whether it be digital or physical, takes them forward with enhanced human connection, to go back to our title, to innovation, to inspiration, to a communal effort, bringing everybody in to have more people participate on the project, and it just grows. And I've seen that happen almost faster, actually not almost, faster and more effectively in the digital worlds than I have in the physical worlds. And I think it's just because it's so much easier for these people to do that.
Yeah, I remember actually when we first met, that was the thing that we were like really geeking out about, of like, oh yeah, like using the metaverse is like a sandbox and a rehearsal room to model new kinds of behavior, rehearse different versions of ourselves, to prototype new worlds in a quick and messy and iterative way. And actually, I mean, that's why I started making theater in the first place, because the theater was a laboratory for creating new features, creating new worlds. So I'm really excited always to experience the metaverse and digital spaces as a way to quickly and nimbly and generously, collaboratively prototype. I think it's also about, I think technology is all about access, so I think everything you said resonates with me. There was a study in the Bay Area that said, because in the pandemic, it was like, oh, live stream theater is like killing live theater, they're against each other, but it was actually people who watched live stream theater were more likely to go to in-person theater. It's not like, let's operate in an abundant mindset as opposed to a scarcity black and white mindset, right? So it's like, I'm always really excited about how can we actually create more access points towards story? How can we actually be pluralistic in how we think about access points?
Right. Are we at 5? I was going to ask one more question. I was going to ask one more question. So I love this question that we have on here, so I just want to hit it. So as a producer, how do you support artists as they create across physical and digital platforms? Like, how do you approach that process?
I think the job of the creative producer is to center the artists as like future visionaries, as architects of new worlds. In everything I do as a producer, I'm always like, how can we center the artist, and how can we create systems for artists to not know? So and also how can we create value in places that traditionally or systemically don't have value, like things like operations of a massive location-based experience. I'm like, those are amazing opportunities for storytelling, right? So how can we, as producers and as leaders of these large-scale events across platforms, look at those opportunities and really foreground the artist and the artist's impulse?
Yeah, how can we empower those artists to create their vision, but create their vision and bring a greater community together?
How about you?
For me, it was all about matchmaking. We wanted to empower artists, and we had all these developers and 3D generalists that were like, hey, I want to help. And so we matched people up. We were like, hey, we have these art projects, and we have these developers, and who wants to work on this one, and who wants to work on this one? And it was like drawing lines across and bringing them together and get everybody supportive. And then we have so there's the 10 principles, and then several communities have side principles, and one of them is teach one, learn one. And so we would have different people teach the basics of Blender, the basics of Unity to an artist, and put the power in their hands. It's like in our community, we have welding workshops, and we have welding workshops, and we have carpentry workshops, where you've never learned how to do any of this stuff, and you go to work on an art piece, and you're helping out, and they're like, oh, here, let me show you how to weld that. And next thing you know, by the end of the project, you're doing master lines, and you've never welded before. And so we did that with code and with 3D modeling and stuff like that.
Love that.
Yeah.
Would love to learn welding.
Welding is so much fun. Oh my God, so much fun.
Why don't we open
let's
it
transition
up
to Q&A.
questions? I have a question. Have you thought about doing upfronts for networks, the upfront parties? I think that would be excellent for an experiential.
In immersive or in person?
Both.
Okay. Actually, I could do a hybrid event and have it be immersive and in person. I have crazy ideas about
We got
how
to
do
connect
hybrid
you
events.
with some
Okay.
of the networks.
Let's do it. I would love that. Yes.
All right. Anyone, questions? Does anyone have any questions? Yes?
Yes.
Here we go.
Being a producer or performer can be really hard. What is a hard-won lesson that you've learned that you can teach to us? Teach us one.
Oh. Delegation. Delegation. Can't do it all yourself. You have to trust the people that are around you. You have to surround yourself with people that are reliable. And if they tell you they don't know what they're doing, show them. And delegation.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Important one. I would say, don't be afraid of weird, new, experimental ways of measuring impact and articulating impact. It's, in a lot of ways, immersive hybrid experiences are still the wild, wild west, and I think we're all trying to figure out how to talk about what we do and how to talk about impact. And sometimes it's challenging to talk about the nuance and the interpersonal and relational and long-term impact. So sometimes I find myself getting fearful and trying to fit into existing language about impact, but I do generally find that it can be very powerful when I try to be like, no, this was impactful because of these new metrics that you might have not thought about.
I have one more, actually. As a producer, we get very single-focused on the task at hand. We have this list that has to get done, and we've delegated it to people, and oftentimes we get through a project, and you have to stop and turn around and look at all those people that did every single piece and give them appreciation. And that is hugely important in whether it's theater or you're working in a corporate environment or you're building a giant festival. I've seen it so many times where the expectation is there that they're just going to do their piece of the project. And they do, and it's great. But remember to turn around and turn back and look at all those people and show appreciation.
So true. So true. Anyone else?
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
I saw another hand.
No?
No? Okay, one more.
If you had a dream project, something that you really would love to create, what would that be for you?
Oh my God. Do we have like 5 more hours to make that in?
How much time do we have?
As you probably gleaned, I'm really passionate about ritual and how we can intersect spiritual practices and XR, because I believe in technology is headsets, but technology is also agriculture, you know? So I'm like always excited about bringing together ancestral and emerging technology. So I'm working on a couple projects that really expand our idea about what is technology.
I have 2 dream projects, semi-related, but I'll start with the first one. I want to co-locate Burning Man. What that means is only 80,000 people get to go to Burning Man, but there's about 3 million people that would love to go, 2.8 million. So I would like to start with something like Center Camp and put in the cameras necessary to capture the people that are there. Probably everyone will have to have an automatic tutu on in the metaverse, because people love going to Center Camp without pants. But anyway, so it streams you into the digital space, and then people in the physical world will put on AR glasses and see people in the digital world, and people in the digital world will see the people in the physical world, and then everyone will be together in that space without the audience limitation of location base. You can only fit so many people in a stadium. That's just the, raw data of it. But when you take away physics and you have the metaverse, and it's just a matter of server space, we should be able to get 2.8 million people together, like at the Travis Scott concert.
Definitely, I agree. Well, I think we're at time.
Okay.
Thank you,
But
everyone.
this has been fantastic. What an honor to have you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone for joining us.